I'm chatting with Alison Metcalfe, who is the Vice President of North America and Oceania for Tourism Ireland. Well, welcome to Australia, Alison. Do you get over here as often as you should?
I get here about once a year. And in fact, the last time I was here, and I have to say, was about 8 months ago, back the end of June of last year, we were down here as you were beginning to open up, just taking a look at how things were shaping up. And we were beginning to sort of plot out our plans for restarting our marketing to attract more Australians back to Ireland. So that plan's going well. But yeah, about once a year, generally speaking, but twice this last sort of 12 months or so.
A lot of Australians, of course, go to Europe and particularly Ireland. And of course, there was a very, very large population of Australians with Irish heritage. I'm one of them. Hello, Waterford, where my forebears are from. And I've also had the great pleasure of kissing the Blarney Stone, so you might have trouble shutting me up, Alison.
So you have the gift of the gab. That's good. So you're one of us.
I'm sure most people think that the Blarney Stone is just a stone that you go up and kiss, but of course it's a real adventure to do that, isn't it?
It certainly is. You have to have a bit of a head for heights and back bending on backwards there. So not necessarily for the faint-hearted, but it's something that people like to do for sure.
Well, I'm a very large person. I was a little bit surprised by these small gentlemen they got to hold my legs.
I'm sure that you've got a pretty good picture to remind you of that event.
It was a great experience. And the thing about Ireland is, it is a small country, but you pack so much into that area, don't you? There's not a centimetre of space is wasted in Ireland. And I'm including Northern Ireland with that as well, because you're promoting that as well, aren't you?
Absolutely. We promote the whole island of Ireland. And as you say, I think Australian travellers they're pretty active travellers and they like to get into a car. So whether you're looking for history, heritage, great scenery, outdoor activity, there's something for everybody.
When we get into a car in Ireland, the distances aren't vast like we're used to over here. So it's a bit of a joy to see so much in what we would consider such a small place.
Absolutely. I think, your sense of distance is very different. So I think the key thing is to not rush things and to take your time and really want to sort of get off the beaten track and enjoy that driving.
Do the Irish actually rush themselves? Because I hadn't noticed that when I've been there. They seem to be pretty laid back.
Very laid back. And I think, I don't think we take ourselves too seriously. And I think, that's we have in common with you guys down under here. I think we like to have fun. We like to have a bit of banter. And I think, one of the great things about any trip to Ireland, we've got great things to do and see and fantastic scenery, but it is the people. It's the people you meet, the stories you hear, and the locals that sort of give you the local lowdown on where to go, what to do, and really bring those experiences to life. I like to sort of liken it to, it's like the character of the place. It's the character of the people and the character of the place, and bring the two together. And I think you have a pretty sort of compelling proposition there.
One of the things I like about the Irish people is that they are so welcoming as well. They do really, if you go there, and of course, as long as you're not too rude or obnoxious, they are just delightful people. And it is one of the joys of visiting Ireland is to just meet the locals. You walk into any pub and somebody will engage you in conversation.
Some would say we're friendly, some would say we're nosy, but absolutely we are friendly. I think that we liken it to we call it the crack, the Irish word, the word CRAIC. We like to have a bit of crack. We like to have a bit of fun. We like to engage with people. We like to chat. And I think that, that is part of our unique brand of hospitality. So it's that warmth of welcome, it's the hospitality, combined with great food and music and culture wherever you go. And I suppose what I think is people are looking for is to have that kind of experience, irrespective of the type of vacation or holiday they want to take, whether they're driving independently and staying in bed and breakfast and small country hotels, or whether they're taking a deluxe tour with a chauffeur driver, a driver guide and staying in the castle hotels, or mixing and matching, which a lot of Australians like to do. Because on average, Australian travellers who visit the island of Ireland are staying 13 days. So they're one of our longest staying markets.
What, you can't get rid of us sooner than that?
I think they're just having too good a time. They don't want to leave. And we make it easy. So, the average American, for example, stays, 8 days. So Australians are staying 13 days. And we recognise that, it's probably part of a wider trip to Europe or the Ireland and the UK, because you're travelling so far. They do like to get off the beaten track, and they do like to get into the regions and explore some of those, sort of lesser known areas.
Well, I was actually thinking about Ireland, the number of movies that have been made there because of the beauty of the place. I mean, to my mind, Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon was shot mainly in Ireland. And that, to me, is one of the most beautiful of all movies, the way he shot it. And Ireland is a dream when you see the scenery. But the other thing is, Saving Private Ryan, a lot of people don't know that the assault of Dunkirk was actually filmed at County Wicklow. Oh, no,
that's right.
Rexford, I think it was.
I think it was Rexford, yeah.
You can find anything in Ireland, and it is really such a beautiful place to visit. The people are just wonderful. There's one thing I don't understand, though. Given the weather, why is golf so popular in Ireland? I mean, yeah, I can understand it in Australia where you get a bit of sun every now and then, but I mean, if you get a wind blowing, you couldn't really hit your ball all that far, could you?
You sound like a fair weather golfer here. Well, a lot of people grow up playing golf, but golf, generally speaking, is open year round. I mean, I was home at Christmas and there are a few it's depending upon the type of course you play on. I mean, it's a links course, they drain very well, and that's what Australians would travel for. We've got 1/3 of the world's links courses around the island of Ireland. If you're on a parkland course, sometimes if it gets a bit wet, they might be closed for a day or two. It's all about having the right gear, having the right clothing. So, you just put on your rain gear and you go out there. And I think that's why when you look at some of the Irish golfers out there on the PGA Tour, that's why they do so well, particularly they're used to playing in wind and rain and everything else. I mean, the last couple of summers, the weather has been fantastic. But golf for us is a really important market. And it is about some of the signature courses like Portrush, Royal County Down, Ballybunion, Lahinch, Old Head, but it's also about some of the, I don't like to call them the lesser known or the hidden gems, but the other links courses, like up in the northwest is a spectacular area, playing up in Donegal, Ballyliffin, Rossapena, now in Portneuf, Enniscrone, and others. There's great value up there, and there's spectacular natural landscapes. And of course, at the end of the day, there's a really superb 19th hole, which I think is what all golfers, and particularly Australians, love. We believe the welcome in the clubhouse is there.
Yes, well, I suppose you could always get a Guinness or one of the famous Irish whiskies here.
Yes, exactly. It's a pretty temperate climate. I mean, it never gets terribly hot and it never gets terribly cold, but the rain you can't determine. But, at the end of the day, people go out and play golf and they enjoy the outdoors.
Oh, they do. Listening to you mention all those places reminded me that Ireland has one of the most musical place names in all the world. I mean, they just roll off the tongue, those place names. They're just lovely to listen to, let alone go and visit. It's the language there based, your Gaelic language and that. And of course, when you go to Ireland, the signs are in English and also Gaelic. When you visit there, you really do get the impression, you're in Europe, but it's a unique part of Europe, I feel.
It is, and it has, obviously a wealth of history. I mean, if we look at the island of Ireland, I mean, there's kind of like almost 5 regions or regional brand experience. You've got Northern Ireland, obviously up at the top there, and you've got a spectacular coastline, walled city of Derry and the Causeway Coastal Route. Then you come down to Dublin on the east coast, and again, some people forget Dublin is a coastal city. So once you've got all of the things you expect in a
I caught the ferry to Dublin from Liverpool, and that was a great little trip. Yeah,
and then you've got lovely coastal villages north of the city, south of the city, and then you come along to further down and through Wicklow and down into Kilkenny and Waterford and Wexford, and that's known as the island's ancient east, and 5,000 years of history. So we have, ancient history there, lots of built heritage, castles, stately homes, and then if you keep going around the bottom and come up the west coast, that's known as the Wide Atlantic Way, and you may have heard of that. One of the longest, in fact, it is the longest marked coastal route in the world. And again, spectacular scenery. So each part of the country offers something unique and different in terms of history, culture, heritage, and whether it's outdoor activities people are looking for, whether it's great food experiences, whether it's great scenery, or whether it's literature. There's something for everybody. Great destination for families too, multi-generational groups, people wanting to travel with their kids and their grandparents as well, and parents.
Well, the Irish are naturally gifted when it comes to the arts, particularly things like writing and drama and acting and stuff like that. They're very good artists. There's just something when you go to Ireland, you just feel that just about everybody seems to be able to sing or whatever. They're very good at telling stories, I've noticed.
Yes, absolutely. And this year we celebrated, last year, actually, the 100th anniversary of James Joyce's Ulysses. Yes. So wherever you go, there's music. And I think it's the spontaneity of some of those experiences. You could be in a pub in Westport, for example, somewhere on the Wild Atlantic Way, and you might go into Matt Malloy's pub. Matt is a member of the Chieftains. But wherever you go, there'll be there may be some locals there with instruments, and they'll have what they call a session, just a local sort of impromptu session. If you were to rock up with an instrument, you'd be invited to participate as well. I think our culture and our heritage is very unique, but I think it is that musical culture, that literary culture. It's ingrained in us, and I think some people more than others, even to this day, the government and everybody else support that. I mean, I think when you look at what Ireland does around the world, we use our arts and culture almost as cultural diplomacy.
Yes.
It's a way to engage and connect, and not just around St. Patrick's Day throughout the year.
I mean, there is a bit of a sporting connection as well with a lot of Australia, not Queensland and New South Wales, because Australian rules football, which is popular in the rest of the country, particularly in Western Australia where I live, that is based on Gaelic football as well. We have these games between Australia and Ireland, which don't mean much because it's sort of mixed rules, really.
That's right. I think, again, as to country, we love our sport, whatever that sport is. And also, if you look at the number of young people that over the last 10, 15, 20 years that have moved, emigrated to Australia, you're seeing the Gaelic Games, the GAA, the Gaelic Athletic Association, they have they have chapters and groups across Australia now, because so it's being kept alive. And then, of course, we share great rivalry on the rugby pitch as well. One
of the things I like about Ireland, well, there's so many, because I've got the heritage anyway, so I'm probably a little bit biased, but the experience you have there. I mean, we were driving somewhere from Bantry Bay, which is extraordinarily beautiful anyway, and it was one of those typical narrow roads in Ireland, and there were two motorists going the opposite way, and they decided to stop and they knew each other, have a chat from their cars to each other, whilst queues of people queued up behind them. And then they said, goodbye. And everybody just sort of proceeded, but nobody seemed to worry about it. You just get those experiences all over Ireland.
You do, and I think that's also quite typical of sort of rural life as well. People have time, and again, for people, and I think you certainly see that more in the rural areas. When you were telling that story, I thought you said you're going to run into an Irish traffic jam, which is often famously known as a herd of sheep coming across the road or something like that.
Oh, that's New Zealand.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. I think it comes back to the fact that, we don't take ourselves too seriously, at times, and we like to sort of relax. We like to engage and just keep an eye on what's going on,
And the other thing I like about Ireland is it's more laid back than sort of going to the UK, well, particularly England. Not so much Wales, because I like to have a party as well, the Welsh. And the Scots are pretty good if they know that you're not English. It's just such a laid back place. Nobody seems to worry about anything there. And it's all, okay, we'll sort it out.
I think for visitors, I mean, typically visitors arrive with a certain amount of plans. When people are asking, what should you do, where should you go? One piece of advice I always say is don't over schedule things, don't over plan things, because I think you do want to sort of allow that breathing space for what you're talking about. It is some of those unplanned interactions with people or places you might stumble upon and decide that, I'd actually like to stay another night here, or I'd like to spend a bit more time here. And it is those unplanned events, those spontaneous encounters that kind of make the trip. And I think it's often the case wherever you go, but it's easy for that to happen in Ireland because we speak the same language. And I think we have sort of hospitality in our DNA. We like to welcome people to our shores. We're an Ireland nation, and obviously one of our biggest exports over time in history has been people. So people have gone away, they've come back, and I just think that it's inbred in most people that people want to welcome people back and are naturally warm and welcoming.
To sum up Ireland, and this is me as an infrequent visitor, first of all, to go there, the people. The scenery is outstanding. Well, I never thought it was a very expensive place to visit. Obviously, there's costs involved in staying places, but some of the places we stayed at were absolutely fantastic. And all of them had charm and character, and that's what I really like about a place. And, of course, it's the surprises, because every time you go to Ireland, you get all these wonderful, and I'm talking about positive surprises that you think, wow, I didn't expect that. And so I think that's why people should go to Ireland, because you're probably not going to get what you expect to get if you've not been there. But if you have been there, you'll know it's open. We don't know what's really going to happen. And that's one of the joys of going there.
I think it is. And one of the biggest surprises, which I think a lot of people have, and we kind of survey people before they go around, what are your expectations around a trip? As you say, you expect there to be great things to do and see and great scenery. We have a wonderful variety of accommodation, everything from the 5-star castles and country inns and those places of character. But when you ask people about, what do you think the food will be like? They say, well, I think it'll be okay.
That's
but
good.
the food experience is phenomenal.
Yes.
And Ireland really is, and I'm not saying it's just tourism board, Ireland is a foodie destination.
Yes,
and
it is.
a lot of people think of Italy and France and everything else, but its commitment to using local ingredients and that local produce, and also just looking at the provenance of some of those dishes they've put together. That's the one area that really surprises people when they come back. And I sometimes sit in airport lounges when I'm flying back home from Ireland, and people are saying, they're all trading their stories, and they say, but the one thing that really blew us away was the food. We never expected it to be good.
Yeah.
And it's not just, great food when you go to a Michelin star restaurant. It's when you're in
everywhere. Like the local pub, it's just fabulous.
Hotel or whatever. So having that great experience at every touch point. Most hotels are committed to sourcing only local ingredients within their local area, or certainly within Ireland. And as one of my colleagues from the travel industry mentioned today, the only things we tend to import are wine and citrus fruits, I think. But beer and whiskey and gin, we have our own now. We have more than 42 whiskey distilleries, 27 gin distilleries. So that whole food and drink experience has come on leaps and bounds over the last decade.
It has. And also the seas around Ireland are very, very clean. They're not as polluted as you go to the English Channel, et cetera, et cetera. And so that what you're getting there is great produce, beautifully cooked and cooked with love, really. And it's just a joy to go there. And yes, you can accompany them with some very good liquors and things like that. I'm more of a fan of Murphy Stout, I have to say. That was one of my pleasant discoveries there. As I said before, you go there, you're probably going to be overwhelmed by kindness and overjoyed by the visit anyway. Going to Ireland is one of the best destinations you can go to anywhere in the world.
Thank you for saying that. And I think if you are combining it with somewhere else in Europe or other part of the United Kingdom, or going to England, Scotland or Wales, again, Ireland, whether it's a lot of good regional airports, so you can jump off from, Dublin or Belfast or Cork as well into other cities. So there's lots of opportunities there. And I think the opportunity to develop sort of customized itineraries, go as you please itineraries, and have that peace of mind that you'll always have somewhere to stay. There'll always be a welcome on the green welcome mat, as we would say, particularly for Australians. We certainly can't wait to welcome more back as Australians get travelling again in 2023.
Well, I've been speaking to Alison Metcalfe, who's the Vice President of North America and Oceania for Tourism Ireland. Alison, thank you very, very much for chatting to us on Tell Me Where to Go. It's been a pleasure to relive my memories of Ireland with you.
Great to speak to you, Steve. Thank you very much.